Have you ever started to feel like nothing matters around your health anymore? Who cares if you overeat? Who cares if you gain weight? You feel this sense of purposelessness around your goals and you just want to give up. You feel like you can't stop eating. But the worst part is that you don't really care that you can't stop eating. Part of you might even enjoy it a little bit. It feels nice to let go of the reins around calorie counting and macro tracking and trying to lose weight all the time. You're able to just stop worrying for a moment and not think about food so much. Today, we are going to talk about why you have these moments in this phase that happens when we're trying to stop binge eating where you just don't care. You can't find the motivation, you feel like nothing is working, and so you just want to give up. What this looks like is you start eating when you're not hungry, even though you're not even enjoying it all that much. You might be binging on the pan of brownies, but you're sitting there thinking, I don't even want to do this, but who cares? It doesn't matter. Knowing that you have tools to use and even remembering them in the moment, but purposely choosing not to use them. When I was in my I don't care mode, I would go crazy ordering at restaurants of all of the things that I wanted, even if I knew there was no way I could comfortably eat it all. I just wrote it off in my mind as like, oh, it will be good to have leftovers, but I'd oftentimes just end up binging them all at the restaurant or when I got home that night. I'd often go to a cookie shop in this mode and order a huge pack of cookies, binge them all in the car, or at least most of them, and binge them all the next day too. I'd intentionally start buying my binge foods at the grocery store with the intention of not that I was going to try to moderate them, but I knew in my head I wanted to binge them. And I'd polish off any leftover sweets that we had in the house, like cakes or brownies, even if they were stale, even if I'd already eaten them, even if I'd already been, quote, good around them and had moderated them or hadn't wanted them the day before. If I got in one of these modes where I just said, I don't care, I didn't care what the food was, I was just going to eat it. This is a kind of phase that's really interesting because it actually feels calm. It also feels numb, detached, a little bit rebellious, sometimes even fun. And that's different than how our normal binges go. That might be very frantic, emotional, out of control, where we feel like we're trying so hard not to do it, yet we still keep eating. This almost feels like we are purposely trying to eat because we've given up and we don't see the point in trying to not eat anymore. So let's talk about why you don't care around food anymore. I find that usually when we're in this place, there's something else going on in our life that's contributing to why we don't care anymore. Maybe you got rejected in dating by someone you were really excited about, or by your partner when you made a request of them, or you really wanted a job and you didn't get it. Maybe you've been trying to grow that dream business for years and it still hasn't taken off and you feel really frustrated by it. You're so drained from taking care of everyone else all day long except yourself. These are all things that might contribute to you feeling like, I just don't care anymore because you're so hopeless in this other area of life. So we start giving up on ourselves in all areas. That despair starts to translate into us just not caring about ourselves. It's this overall thought of, I don't care about me. There's not a point because my efforts aren't giving me what I want. Now, sometimes there's not something else going on elsewhere in our life and you're very happy all around except around food. In this case, feeling like you don't care usually comes because you've been trying so many things that haven't worked for so long. You start to feel hopeless. Like, what's the point? I see this happening a lot for people who have been doing really intense, strict diets or tracking, calorie counting, macro tracking. It's very exhausting to have to think about every morsel of food you put in your body and logging it, checking in with an app, pre-planning all of it. I know this because I was obsessed with calorie counting for so many years. I thought I couldn't trust my body without it. I remember I had a therapist tell me, like, what comes up for you when you think about not tracking this week? And I was like, no. You have no idea, lady. My body has no idea what it needs to eat. If I were to just eat what my body needed, I would definitely gain a lot of weight. I would keep binge eating. It was like my form of artificial control. But it is so time consuming and annoying to have to track all of that. And there's a lot of other strategies that I've seen that are crazy that people are doing that just take up so much time and energy. Even just focusing on this goal of trying to stop binge eating, if you don't have a step-by-step plan or you're not in a program like my Confident Eater program, you're spending hours and hours every single day searching for random tips, random ideas on how to stop binge eating. You're listening to the podcast, you're Googling overeating tips, you're watching YouTube videos, you're reading books. All of these things just like get exhausting and hard to think about after so much time. So I always recommend narrowing down, like, don't make your entire life just about food. See if you can diversify who you're following on Instagram. But of course, this is an important goal to solve. So choose one or two people that you really like their advice on and follow them, do their program so you can actually solve this. You don't have to keep thinking about food for the next 10 years. When you've been having to control, monitor, fix, improve nonstop around your eating habits, it's no wonder that you want to give up, that you feel so tired, that you just want to say, I don't care, and get a little release from that. The truth is, it's not that you don't care about your eating goals anymore. It's that you're exhausted of doing BS things that don't work long term. You're rebelling because you felt so constrained doing things that you don't really want to do. I promised myself that if I stopped binge eating, my eating habits would have to feel fun, light, and easy to me. I was not going to do anything I didn't want to do that felt like a struggle. And that's what I've created and what I teach to my clients inside of the Confident Eater program. I don't count anything ever. Instead, you learn how to become the person who can make eating decisions in the moment based on what your unique body needs. I do plan my meals sometimes because that's what makes my life easier now, not harder. When people resist meal planning and having food prepped, that tells me that they probably have like an annoying diet history where they made plain grilled chicken breast and broccoli for every meal for like 2 weeks straight. That is boring. I don't want to do that. I love having good meals prepped, and I genuinely enjoy having good leftovers and having food prepped because I'd rather have that than something I like cobbled together last minute. I enjoy my food more when I plan it ahead. When you love your eating habits, you don't want to abandon them. You don't want to give up and say, I need a break. I've just been trying so hard. Who cares if I gain weight? Because your eating habits will feel easy and you want to actually maintain them then. A lot of people I work with are perfectionists, right? Let me know if you are a perfectionist or recovering from perfectionism. You set really high standards for yourself around eating and your body too. You have very strict guidelines on what your body needs to look like and the weight range it's supposed to be in. You have a lot of rules around food and a lot of specific things that you need to follow in order to feel like you're okay. You think you should just know it all and have this figured out already because you know so much else and you figure out so much else in your life, but it feels so frustrating that you haven't got this one thing under control yet. When you have these unrealistic standards for yourself, it can make it feel like you're constantly failing and that nothing you do is good enough. When the only option is perfection, your brain will decide to give up and do nothing. That's when you end up binge eating. There are 3 main stress responses: fight, flight, and freeze. There's also fawn, but that's another conversation. I don't care, this thought is often a freeze nervous system response. This explains why we feel not motivated, numb, disconnected, passive. It's not because you don't want to change your eating habits. It's because your system is overwhelmed and overworked, which means forcing motivation is never going to work here. The common advice is just to tell yourself, I'm just going to get back on track. I'm just going to be more disciplined. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to tell myself it does matter. But when you're in this state of hopelessness and overwhelm and numbness from that freeze response, motivation is biologically unavailable to you right then. Your willpower is offline. Your thinking brain is not in charge because your brain is trying to make sure that you are safe right now. And so it can't think about your long-term goals and your future when you're in this place. And this is where typically in a coaching session, I'll bring in some of my favorite nervous system regulation techniques to help you get back to the place where you can care. And it's possible for you to say, yes, this is why I want to stop binge eating long-term. And this is what matters to me. And I now have the ability to think ahead more than this day in this moment right here because my nervous system is regulated. When you don't care, that is information. It is not failure or evidence that you actually don't care about your health. It doesn't mean that you're regressing or self-sabotaging. What feeling like you don't care is telling you is that something in your system needs relief. Something has been too rigid. Something is unsustainable about what you're doing right now. The I don't care phase is usually the signal that the old way of eating or living cannot continue. So if you find yourself in this state, which you probably will at one point or another, I have been there. Nothing has gone wrong. This isn't some permanent destination. The first thing I want you to do is to lower the bar for yourself on purpose. Now, a lot of high achieving women will think that lowering the bar means giving up, means settling, but that's not what you're doing. All this is doing is helping you actually achieve your goals. When you have the standard for yourself to the moon and you are like down in the deep depths of hell, it's going to feel like a very big gap, and that's when we keep giving up. So I want you to think about a staircase. We need to just take the very next stair up We don't have to get rid of our dream goals for our body or our health, but we want to think about what's the next stair in front of me, not what's the entire staircase. You can see where you're going, but we don't want to focus our energy there. We want to focus on taking the very next step. So instead of trying to eat perfectly, whatever that means to you, following rules, saying you're never going to binge, I want you to try instead eating regularly, slowing down for one meal, not skipping breakfast after a binge, reducing the extremes and trying to find the gray area, finding nuance, that you didn't screw up everything, that you didn't mess up everything just because you had a cookie. You want to get yourself stable first, and then you can start thinking about your big progress goals. Second, I want you to give yourself permission to care about something else first. If you are having a really hard time thinking about why it matters to not binge, I want you to think about what you do care about. I want you to start caring about your rest, boundaries, sleep, pleasure, fun, less productivity. Yes, I said it, less productivity, because we live in a capitalist society that's always telling us to go, 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 do, more. So make it your goal to say, how could I be less productive today? What could I take off my to-do list? Where can I allow myself a moment of rest? In true rest, not just saying I'm going to zone out to binge, because that is not true rest. That is something that is actually very energetically draining and never gives us back energy. Then third, it's time to start rebuilding your self-trust. When you've stopped caring, your self-trust is usually very low. So I want you to start with one small action to show yourself that you care about you today. It can be drinking a glass of water, going for a walk, washing your face, doing your makeup, giving yourself a big hug, really anything. And the most important thing you need to be doing while you're taking this action is saying to yourself, this is me showing myself that I matter and I do care. Reinforce the belief, I care about me. I am important to me. This matters. Look at me go. I am so proud of you. That message you start to send yourself around other habits in your life will translate and domino into your eating habits. Because what we believe about one thing is usually what we believe about everything. So if we went on a date last week with someone we were really excited about and then they ghosted us, and you start to think, none of this matters, I'm not important, I'm not lovable, that thought will translate into your eating habits too. And then you'll start to think, who cares if I'm overweight? Who cares if I eat all these chocolate chip cookies right now? I don't matter anyways. So think about, what other messages are you translating to yourself every single day? I have women who have told me that they're not sure if they have 30 minutes a week to join a call with me and coach in the Confident Eater program. And I always ask them, what message do you think you're sending to your brain if you say to yourself all day long, I can't even take 30 minutes a week to myself to better my goals and to focus on my health and my future? When you are sending that message to yourself, of course you're going to go to food when you're stressed, because you don't believe you're allowed to take a break for yourself. You're allowed to take a break in time away from yourself. So by spending just 5 minutes today doing something for you, you are showing yourself, I am allowed to take a break. I am allowed to care for myself. I do matter. Now, on the other side, I don't want you to make an excuse saying that I have to care about myself to not binge, that I have to get to this place where I'm telling myself I matter. You can be in the deepest, darkest hole of self-hatred and shame and not caring about anything in life and still choose to not binge. You always still have the power to not act. It is still always a choice you can choose to make or not make. Binge eating is never inevitable. You always still have your power, okay? And that's important to know, because life is going to happen sometimes. And I'm telling you guys, I think people think that I'm like this perfect human with this perfect life. And I know when you're listening to someone on a podcast, it can feel like, I don't know, I'm like this like celebrity of sorts, which I am not. But sometimes we put these people and these experts on a pedestal. I am just a normal human too. I feel sad sometimes. I feel hopeless sometimes. I feel really down in the dumps about my life sometimes. And a lot of times I don't too. A lot of times, because I've done so much work and coaching has literally changed my life in so many different ways, I really love my life and I find it very magical. And I would say overall, I'm an extremely happy person. But on the days that life happens, as it will in your life, again, life will get lifey, you need to know that you don't have to fix that in order to not binge. I haven't binged in 4 or 5 years now because I have learned how to sit with those emotions and not make them a problem. And so I want you to tell yourself too, that no matter how you're feeling about yourself today, we want to start doing the actions to care for yourself more, because that feels good. But even if you don't feel good about yourself, you can still choose to not binge. Not caring is a temporary emotional state that you are in, but overeating creates long-term negative consequences that will last. You will care about yourself one day again, and you don't want to be stuck with the damage that you just caused from overeating when that day comes. Choosing to zone out and binge does not help you stop thinking about food and eating in life. That actually creates more thoughts about food and life and how miserable you are. I promise you there's always a part of you that still does care, that is in there. Dig deep and connect into that part of you. The final exercise that you can do for this, think about something that you do still care about, right? Close your eyes. Imagine a pet that you love, a family member that you love, a friend that you love, something that you care about in your career, a hobby that you really care about. Imagine how you feel when you think about caring about that thing. I want you to describe what that sensation is like in your body. Then I want you to connect into that feeling, whatever you're noticing, and think about that when you think about your eating goals. Seeing what insights you can gain about what really does matter to you and the things you do care about, and letting that simmer in to your eating goals too. Okay, my friend, there is hope for you. You are never too far gone. What you want is possible, and it begins right now by you choosing yourself again.